What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful.com. This is the Fightful MMA.com podcast preview for UFC 245. We will be here live on YouTube.com/Fightful and Fightful.com Saturday night for a post show for this huge UFC 245 show. 3 championship fights, plus you got Jose Aldo back in action, assuming the guy makes weight. You got Urijah, Faber. Just this show is just filled with former champions, and former title challengers. Lots to talk about here. We're going to give you betting odds. Of course, you can stream this show. The prelims are on Fight Pass, the early prelims rather. Additional prelims on ESPN or ESPN Plus, and the pay-per-view is streaming live on the ESPN Plus platform. But we'll have live coverage for you Saturday night, December 14th, starting at like 5:30, 6 p.m. Eastern. The pay-per-view starts at 10 p.m. Eastern. Join us, our live coverage, our live discussion. We're going to have hundreds, if not thousands, of comments over there from people just like you who are tuning in to enjoy the show. But let's go ahead and get into it. You got Oscar Pacoda, a -120. Punahale Soriano, a +100. I like where this betting line is at. I think that it's appropriate, it's fair, it's a bit close. I don't have a problem in the world with that betting line. Jessica Ai, a +150. Former title challenger taking on Viviane Araújo, a -170. And I love this line as well. I've been telling you guys for a while, keep your eyes on Viviane Araújo, a flyweight who is quickly emerging up the ranks. 33 years old, just turned 33. But if you guys remember, she just showed up in the company at 135 pounds in May, beat Talita Bernardo with an overhand right, and this was after she had been competing as a strawweight at 115. There was talk about her going back to 115. She said, no, I'm going to get back in the cage in 2.5 months, and I'm going to face Alexis Davis, and she beat her. If she beats Jessica Ai, I don't know how she isn't quickly in the title conversation. And I know that's wild. We've seen a lot of quick ascents with guys like Volkan Ozdemir and Francis Ngannou. If Viviane Araújo can finish Jessica Ai, then I think you got to put her in that conversation. Jessica Ai is fresh off of a title fight. Had it in June. So she's there. She's ready. I mean, obviously, Viviane Araújo isn't going to slide in and knock Ketlen Chikagian off the schedule or anything, but I see her as a person that can challenge for this title. If not after this win, then after another one. If Jessica Ai can win, well, that's big for her, because the UFC is honestly more likely to keep her around if she's not knocking off contenders than if she is, and then she loses later on, as we saw with Liz Carmouche, which was an absolutely ridiculous cut by the UFC. Brandon Moreno, a +145, taking on the -165 Kai Kara France. Now, the UFC is still hanging on to this flyweight division, even though they gutted it in several ways. You have Kai Kara France, who's come in and just won 3 in a row. His record is quite deceiving, because he started off, I think, like 12-7. And now he's just really lighting it up and doing well. He beat Mark De La Rosa and Paiva. But Brandon Moreno is a guy that you can't count out. He's competing in grappling, he's competing all over the place. He's back in the UFC. He had that draw against Askar Askarov, and now he's back into it. But he emerged out of the Ultimate Fighter as a guy that was just getting a fight, just taking a fight against Smoka to get it. He won a lot of fights, looked like he was close to a title fight, and then lost a couple, and the UFC cut him. He's back in the game, but I don't think he's beating Kai Kara France. I have Kara France winning this. Daniel Teymur, a -105. Chase Hooper, a -115. I like this line. I think that Daniel Teymur is going to end up winning this, though. Got my I got 5 on it pick here. +285, Ben Saunders. He's been in the cage a lot more frequently than the -345 Matt Brown. And the thing is, I don't know who's more well-rounded at this stage, because we don't see as much of Matt Brown as we used to. Ben Saunders, you know the drill. He's fought almost 40 times. Same with Matt Brown. So, I mean, we got this huge sample size to deal with, but we've not seen Matt Brown in over 2 years. We thought that he was going to retire. He tore his ACL. We don't know what that's going to mean for his mobility. Ben Saunders, on the other hand, not only stays in the cage, he is on some kind of special streak. I think it's 10 straight fights that have not been canceled, have not been delayed. He's not been pulled from. And that's not easy to do, because I know there was a period of a couple years where, like, every year, a couple times, he'd have his fights pulled and canceled and replaced. So that would lead you to believe that Saunders is somewhat healthy. Unfortunately, he's lost 5 of 6. He's lost to some good fighters like Lyman Good and Alan Juban, Takashi Sato. But his only win is against Jake Ellenberger, which isn't saying much. Can he beat a guy like Matt Brown, who still at least has something in him as of 2 years ago? I don't know. This is a crapshoot, and I'm surprised the betting lines are so wide for this one. Ian Heinisch, he's looking to bounce back. He's minus 150 against Omari Akhmedov. This is a middleweight fight, and it's one that I think that Heinisch needs to win to stay relevant. He came in and he won against Cesar Ferreira and in Shoeface, which are really great wins, but he lost it against Derek Brunson, and now nobody's talking about him. His fight got rescheduled with Brad Tavares. I think that would have been a good opponent for him, but now he's got Akhmedov, who is on a hot streak, has not lost in his last 5 fights. I think that Akhmedov can pull this one off, and I think there's some value there at plus 130. You have Irene Aldana, a plus 145 against Ketlen Vieira. Ketlen Vieira seems pegged for a future title shot. And the thing is, the UFC could do that at 145 or 135, whichever. Really wouldn't matter. I think it's safer to do it at 145, but I think she could make 135 if necessary. She's beaten Kat Zingano, Sarah McMahon. Those are some of her more standout wins, so to speak. But Irene Aldana is a person that they thought was going to be a lot better than she was. She stepped into the UFC and lost 2 straight fights. She was able to win 3 in a row, but lost to Pennington. So I think the UFC would probably want Ketlen Vieira to win this, and I think that Ketlen Vieira will win this. I would have her closer to minus 185. Her length is going to play a role into this, I think, even though Irene Aldana is a little bit taller, has a little bit more of a reach, I've noticed that Vieira uses it a little bit better. So if she can utilize that here in this fight, it'll play off really well. Geoff Neal, a minus 245 against the plus 205 Mike Perry. Geoff Neal's got to win this. He's better. He's more athletic. He's harder to put away. He's more accurate. He's more powerful. It just seems like a better fight for him. And Mike Perry will be able to coast off the fact that he's a tough guy that won a lot of fights early in his UFC career for quite a while. He's got a win over Paul Felder, Alex Oliveira, Jake Ellenberger, and he's going to be able to rock with that for quite a while. Every single one of his fights in his 3-year career, people have at least talked about, but he's losing to Vicente Luque via split decision, so I can't imagine that Geoff Neal has that much trouble putting him away, and I think it'll happen in the first round. Urijah Faber, back in action. He is a monumental plus 385 against the minus 485 Petr Yan. This is a building fight for Petr Yan, but I think there's some value at plus 385 with Urijah Faber. I mean, Ricky Simone is good, guys, and Faber just beat him, and beat him real quick. Real quick. Now, is Petr Yan better? Yeah, he's a lot better. Wins over Jimmy Rivera, John Dodson, Douglas Silva de Andrade. Like, there are some good wins there. And he has been nothing but great in the UFC. Could be right in line for a title shot with a win over Urijah Faber. But what we saw at Urijah Faber, I think maybe instilled some confidence in him. Maybe he's a little more likely to throw those hands. I mean, that was the first knockout win that I can't even remember him having a knockout win. I've been watching Urijah Faber for a decade, probably 13, 14 years, And I don't remember him having like a finish like that. So that we see him with that time off, that he was able to pull off something like that, I think that's pretty special and pretty awesome. But I think Petr Yan's going to win this. But I'm not writing Faber off, and he is one of my I got 5 on it picks. Jose Aldo making his 135-pound debut against Marlon Moraes. Moraes a -200, Aldo a +170. I would be shocked if Aldo makes weight. Very, very shocked. And if he did, I would be shocked if he made it past the second round. I don't know how much CSF fluid's going to be in there, cushioning that brain from the kicks that Marlon Moraes is going to be throwing at him. Now, the reach is in Aldo's favor, obviously, about 3.5, 4 inches. That's not even factoring in the legs. But it ain't been great for Aldo when he doesn't pull the trigger. When he doesn't quite pull the trigger, since the McGregor fight, it's not been great for him. However, he's beaten Moicano, he's beaten Jeremy Stephens, he's been able to do that. The thing is, when he fought McGregor, he pulled the trigger a little bit too fast. And Marlon Moraes, as we've seen, is capable of head kicking somebody in a minute or 30 seconds. He's capable of kneeing somebody in a minute. He's capable of snatching you up in a guillotine choke in about 3 minutes. He can ride you out to a decision. He can work you over in about any way that you can. He's very versatile. You're not going to see a ton of great wrestling out of Marlon Moraes, but I imagine this one to stay on the feet at least until Aldo gets tagged, and he might try a takedown. I don't know how well that'll work for him. If Aldo ends up winning this and finishes Moraes, then he's immediately in the 135-pound conversation, though. Immediate. 3 big title fights. I don't think that you needed 5 fights on this main card with that, but here we go. Amanda Nunes, a double champion. 135 pounds, 145 pounds. By all means, the greatest female fighter of all time. She's beaten former 135-pound champion Holly Holm. Holm should have been the first 145-pound champion. She's beaten the greatest 145-pound fighter of all time prior to her in Chris Cyborg. She has beaten the greatest 125-pound fighter in the world, Valentina Shevchenko, twice. She has beaten Ronda Rousey, who was the greatest bantamweight champion in the world before her. She's even beaten some of the best pro wrestlers in the world in Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey. She's beaten Julia Budd, who is the Bellator 145-pound champion. And oh, by the way, this woman that she's fighting, Germaine de Randamie, she beat her in under 4 minutes 6 years ago via elbows. And Germaine de Randamie is an unbeaten featherweight champion. De Randamie, a healthy underdog at +240. Nunes, a -280. I do not see this going much different. I see de Randamie being a little more tentative. I would like to see her open up more. But let's be real. Amanda Nunes is the greatest female fighter of all time. The only other person at this point I think you can even make an argument for is Valentina Shevchenko, and it's a woman that Nunes has beaten twice. It's just that last one was awfully damn close, so you could make that argument. De Randamie's got some nice wins. Aspen Ladd, Pennington. The Holm fight should have went to Holm. She is out of her depth here, in my estimation. Max Holloway, a -170 as he looks to defend his UFC Featherweight Championship against Alex Volkanovski. Now, things have not been going so smooth for Max Holloway since the beginning of last year. He got a leg injury when he was supposed to fight Frankie Edgar in March. He had a terrible weight cut in April. He had concussion-esque symptoms in July of 2018. He looked great against Ortega at the end of the year. Then he tried to fight Dustin Poirier. It did not work out. I would believe that those hiccups are behind him because when he's in the cage at featherweight, he looks unbelievable. He's facing a guy in Volkanovski who is very versatile, who wants to get you to the ground, but Holloway is very active on the ground, so I'm very interested to see if that plays out the way that I think it will. Holloway will strike you from the ground, from his back. He will try to submit you from his back. He will do any number of things to impede whatever the hell it is that you're trying to do from that spot. Volkanovski is very smothering. I don't know if he's smothering enough to overcome the pressure of Max Holloway. And the funny thing is, despite Max Holloway being like 5 inches taller than Volkanovski, I'm pretty sure Volkanovski has like a 2.5-inch reach advantage. How he uses that reach, that's what interests me. Is he going to use that to close the distance and get into the clinch and try to work for the takedown? Well, that would be common sense, right? I think there's a little bit of value at plus 150 on Volkanovski. I think there's more value on him at plus 150 than there is for Germaine to Randamie at plus 240, to be honest with you. Volkanovski has not had any in-cage issues since he's been in the UFC. And this is a guy who, like, I remember 2 years ago, they couldn't find an opponent for the guy. Jeremy Kennedy got hurt. Humberto Bandenet got hurt. You had that Zambonga guy get hurt. And then Volkanovski was like, all right, whatever. I'm going to grind out a decision over Shane Young. I wonder, I don't want to say the layoff, but I wonder how him not fighting quite as much as he did last year will affect him. He fought in November 2017. He fought in February 18, July 18, then December 18. And then he took about 6 months off, and now he's taken about 7 months off. And the 7-month layoff isn't something that's new to him. It happened between 2016 and 2017 as well. But the thing that I noticed about that was when he has that kind of layoff, he doesn't seem to finish his opponents. Like, we saw that when he took off 6 months and fought Hirota and it went to his decision. He took about 5 months off, and when he faced Shane Young, he didn't get the finish. However, he came back in about 2 or 3 and was able to ground and pound somebody. So I don't know, just something that I kind of noticed along the way. We'll see if that is just, you know, more of me looking into it, but we'll see. Kamaru Usman defending the UFC Middleweight Championship, or Welterweight Championship, pardon. He is a minus 175 against Colby Covington, a plus 155. And whether you like Colby Covington or not, he can get into people's heads. And whether you like Colby Covington or not, this is long overdue. He should have had a title shot after the Maia fight, a full title shot. He should have had one after Dos Anjos. Finally, he gets it after Lawler. He is an unbeaten interim welterweight champion. He never lost that. Never lost that. The title was won last June. Unanimous decision. By the time that he fought, I want to say 14 months later, he didn't have it. But he didn't look bad against Robbie Lawler. That's the thing. He shut down Robbie Lawler, Rafael Dos Anjos, and Damian Maia, and that ain't easy to do. I quite frankly see this being possibly one of the most boring UFC title fights in history. A real possibility. You've got Colby Covington, nonstop decisions. You've got Kamaru Usman, hasn't finished a fight in 2 years, and only has one finish in the last 4 years. This could be a very, very boring fight. At the same time, maybe Usman just is livid, throws a shot, and cracks Covington. Covington's striking is more effective than anybody gives him credit for. Because it's almost like those pestering strikes. Like, he throws them out there and he peppers you. You're worried about the takedown, and then I don't want to say pillow hands you, but it doesn't seem like he puts a lot of ill intent behind his strikes. It's more like, hey, I'm gonna let you know that I'm here and that you got to worry about this if you're too worried about the takedown. I think that Kamaru Usman's going to win this. Guys, make sure you all leave a thumbs up. Make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you all hang around here. After the show, I'm going to be doing a live post show at youtube.com/Fightful. I'll be listening to you guys talk all your trash. So make sure you all leave a thumbs up. Make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you all show the site a little bit of love. FightfulMMA.com. We're out.